All right, welcome to the slab rolling demonstration video. There are two ways to roll slabs. You can do it by hand, which I'm about to show you, and there's also a device called a slab rolling table, which I will also show you. If you are rolling slabs by hand, you need a rolling pin, and most people have. If you have a rolling pin at home, it's going to be about that size. In the classroom here, I have got these big rolling pins, which if you have access to, I absolutely prefer. It just makes the process a little bit easier. In addition, you want to make sure that you roll slabs where the thickness is even. So what we've got here are these things which are called thickness guides, and they lay on either side of the clay as you do it. The rolling pin rolls along, kind of like a train on the railroad tracks, and it makes sure that the slab you're rolling has an even thickness. So the thickness guides that I have in the classroom go from this one, which is labeled with a 4, all the way to this one, which you can see much thinner, which is labeled with a 1. For the purposes of the slab projects that we do in here, the 4 or the 3, I think, is a pretty good thickness. So I'm going to use the 3. Why you would make the difference between a 1, 2, 3, or 4? The 4 is going to be thicker clay, so if you're pressing textures in that are extra aggressive, like a deep pine cone or something like that, where you really want a nice deep texture, a 4 is good. 3 is just sort of a multi-purpose thickness. It's pretty appropriate for most situations. 2 and 1 are going to be much thinner, so those are better for like additive things and not the main body of the dish that you're making or the sign. So first thing is you have to know the measurements of what you're going to be making here. So I've got my clay ruler, and the way to start rolling a slab really is you have to get this clay kind of pounded down a little bit first, a little bit flatter. So if you can do that, if you're comfortable doing that, great. If not, sometimes you can actually throw it down, and that will make things a little bit flatter as well. Now, something that you need to know before you roll the slab is that when you roll it, it really only gets longer. It does not get wider. So you want to pound it down first until it's about as wide as you are going to want. So let's just say that, by the way, the amount of clay I had really was probably the amount that you would use to make somewhere between 2.5 to 3 pinch pots. So if you can just kind of use that as a gauge. And I'm going to try to do maybe like a 6x8 slab here, right? So I'm measuring right now, and it's about 6 inches at its widest, but it's not evenly 6 inches everywhere. And remember, it's only going to get longer, not wider. So I want to pound it a little bit wider before I start rolling. Now that we've got that fairly flat, you can see it's bigger than 6 inches, which is kind of what I want. It's much better to trim away excess than to just be rolling a slab that's, barely the size you want. It's nicer if you have a little extra clay that you can just trim it off, a little more leeway there. So then it's time to start rolling. What I like to do is take that rolling pin, put it right in the middle, put my hands on it, apply some, of my, kind of go up on my toes here and apply some of my just natural body weight and just rock this back and forth until the rolling pin hits the thickness guides. So you can see I've kind of hit the thickness guides there now. Now what I'm going to do is take that excess that's right here and I'm going to roll it out. Just a tight back and forth. And as I'm rolling, you can see this is getting tapered. So if what you can do is as you're rolling, you can kind of just do that as you go. Another thing that will crop up sometimes is you'll get a little air bubble. I have an air bubble right there. So if you just pop the air bubble with a needle tool, and I kind of press down, there's a little more air. Rolling slabs will do that pretty easily, actually. So I've got that, kind of popped it. Now I'll just keep rolling it out. I like to use this to kind of do the tight back and forth. And then once I really want to just make sure it's nice and smooth, I kind of put my hands on the handles here and I just slide it like this rather than holding it like this, which sometimes when students do that, this part of your hand gets like irritated right here. So finish this. And then you do the same thing, but down here now for this thickness. Right here, kind of rock it back and forth as we're bringing that thickness out. You can pound it a little bit. Again, I got another little air bubble here. Just pop it. Smooth it over. And then I like to give it a couple quick overs like this. And we've got our slab. Now, one thing you want to know before you move this or trim it or do anything really is slabs are notorious for cracking. When you make something with a slab, it can crack quite easily. So when you go to pick this up, if you kind of grab it like that, that can put some, tension marks into the clay, which later on can become a crack. So you want to handle it very, very carefully and by spreading all of that surface pressure out. So what I always like to have handy is either a canvas mat to put it on, or maybe best case scenario, if this is going to be something you're working on for a while, a wooden board, and the wooden board is wrapped in plastic. If the wooden board is not wrapped in plastic, the wood itself will just suck moisture out of your clay as you're working, and obviously this is drying this out, and we don't want this to be dried out. So what we do is we create a barrier of plastic so the wood texture and the fibers itself cannot take any of the moisture away from the clay. This will go on here, and then at the end of class, I'll wrap the entire thing up in another plastic bag, so it's plastic, clay, plastic, which is what we want. So before I transition it onto the board, maybe I should consider trimming this down. To trim the slab, I said I wanted to roll a 6x8 slab, so I'm gonna measure here. I can use my needle tool. It cuts the clay pretty easily. That's 6 inches, make a little mark. And then this is gonna be 8 this way. And another 6. And to finish that off, just like that. Now that I've got my slab measured 6x8, I can move it to the board. And I want to move this slab around as little as possible. So if I keep my board handy and close by, and I pick this up very carefully, supporting it as I go, and carefully transfer it onto this. Now I can move it around. The slab is not in any danger. I can lay it flat if I need to. Other things that are good to know about working with slabs is if you are rolling a slab or you make a mistake, you gouge the slab or anything like that, these rubber rib tools are excellent for erasing mistakes on this kind of clay. So I have a little frayed edge right here. I can just pull it lightly and it smooths everything out just like that. It's just a nice little tool to have handy when you're rolling slabs. So that is the way that you roll slabs with the rolling pin and thickness guides method. Next will be the slab rolling table method. So now we're at the slab rolling table, and I've got my clay, I've got the slab rolling table, I've got my ruler, which you're going to need, of course, when you are measuring the slab. And things to know about this slab rolling table would be the way to change the thickness down here. You can take out boards. So this board, I can take it right out. I have other boards right here that can be added. You add boards, it makes the slab thinner. You take boards away, it makes the slab thicker. So here we go. Got my clay positioned, and I'm gonna again pound it as wide as it needs to be. Remember, if smacking the clay like that is just not something that your hand can tolerate, my skin is, obviously toughened because I do this all the time. But for a lot of people, that's just too much. So feel free to, if you take a canvas mat and you put it on the ground, you can take the clay and slam it down a bunch of times. That will make it flatter, and then you can go ahead to this stage right here. So I've got my clay flatter. Of course, I should be measuring it with a ruler, so let me go grab one. Got a ruler now. Next, I made my last one. It was 6x8. Let's go like, I don't know, maybe 10x10 on this one if we can get 10x10. So, or at least 8x8. I got 8 right now. Remember, slabs only get longer, not wider. So if I was really wanting to have a 10x10 slab, I'd be worried. I don't think this is going to be a 10x10 slab, but I'm pretty confident that I'll at least be able to get 8x8 or 8x10, so I'm going to go ahead and build that slab. If I needed it to be 10x10, I probably should just get more clay, wedge it, and sort of start over. So to roll, now you take this canvas cover, place it nice and straight. You take the wheel here, and nice and slowly crank that, and it will roll right over the cliff. Bring it back. And you can see it does the job pretty fast. And for measurements, we've got 8, 8. I'm going to be able to get 8x10 out of this. So just like last time, measure 10 inches. Make the marks. And 8 inches. Now you can see that is not going to quite work out. So actually, I should probably do maybe 7. 7 will work. So this is going to be a 7x10 slab. I just didn't have enough clay. For the purposes of this demonstration, no big deal. If it was a project though, and I really needed it to be a particular measurement, that would be a big deal. Connect the dots. And we have 7x10 slab. Now, again, being very careful when I pick this up, supporting it, and making sure I have somewhere to put this, a board wrapped in plastic or a canvas mat to move it around. And then the next step is, what am I going to do with these slabs? Am I going to be making a dish using the slump mold technique or the drape mold technique, or am I just leaving it as a flat slab and it's going to become a wall hanging? Those are all the options for Pottery 1 projects. So that will be in the next video. 2 ways to roll slabs: slab rolling table and the rolling pen and the thickness guides.